kit first arrives, inside you're going to find an envelope, and in that envelope there'll be a set of prints for the front and rear overlays, and they're a one-to-one drawing of the overlay itself. On these prints is 4 important pieces of information. The first is there'll be a template that you'll cut out, and you'll set that aside, and later we'll use that just prior to drilling holes into the brake caliper brackets. Sometimes the template will be up in the top left-hand corner. The other piece of information is there's a bill of material with all the parts that are in the kit and part numbers. The third piece of information is there is a guide on how deep to drill into the brake caliper bracket, and there'll be more on that later. And the last piece is the order in which you install the bolts, washers, and spacers. Now, if you didn't purchase the installation or the optional installation kit online, that's not a problem. You can purchase all the parts you need to do this install at your local big box store, at your local hardware store. And here are the items you need. You'll need a punch. You'll also need a center punch, 15/64. You need a 4.2 millimeter drill bit. You'll need a 5 millimeter fluted tap. You need a T-handle or any type of tap wrench. You'll need a 4 millimeter Allen wrench if you have the socket head cap screw. And you'll need a 3 millimeter Allen wrench if you happen to have the button head Allen screw. You'll also need some blue Loctite. In addition to that, you'll need a can of air or compressed air, and also a can of brake clean. The brake clean is used to more as a lubricant during the tapping process. So with that said, let's get started. So before actually drilling any holes into your caliper brackets, the first thing you want to do is cut out the template, and this is going to tape to the caliper bracket. Then you want to cut out the overlay itself, and with a standard hole punch, punch the holes. And then lastly, on the print, you want to make sure that you're going to drill the holes to the proper depth. And like I explained before, there's a diagram here, and for the BMW M6 in particular, for the front ones, I need to drill 0.625 inches into the brake caliper bracket, or basically 5/8. The easiest thing to do is create a very inexpensive depth gauge with a steel rule or a tape measure. Just measure out 5/8 of an inch, and then take a piece of duct tape or electrical tape, wrap it around at that spot, and then when you drill, just drill to that level, and now you know you're at the right depth of 5/8. As you can see, I've installed the template and the one-to-one overlay. And what we're going to do now is put the wheel back on, tighten up one lug nut, and just spin the wheel, make sure that it has clearance all around. So at this point, I've got the wheel back on. You're going to give it a quick spin. And you can clearly see that there's more than enough room here. It's the stock BMW M6 wheel, so there will be no issue. If this happened to be an aftermarket wheel, I would want to check the clearances behind the wheel here and the bottom of the overlay, and also on the outside of the overlay and the wheel. Particularly important if there's some wheel weights that happen to be in a different place on your custom wheel than they are in a stock wheel. So I've got the wheel off, and I also took the one-to-one overlay off, exposing just the template. At this point, you want to take a punch or a center punch, doesn't matter. Find the very center of this hole, a couple good wraps to mark it. Don't do the bottom one yet. What we're going to do is drill and tap this hole, and then we're going to put the overlay, install the overlay, the real one, and then we'll do the bottom hole. That way we're sure that we have a perfect alignment. Using a 4.2 millimeter drill bit, go ahead and drill a hole in the place you just marked. After you've drilled the hole, now you want to clean all the debris out, and you can use a can of compressed air, or you can just use a compressor from home, which I have here, and just make sure you get every bit out of there. Then what you want to do is, before you start the tapping process, is grab a can of brake clean and just squirt a little bit inside. You don't need much, but a little. And then you grab your tap, and you always want to make sure you get started straight, and you just start tapping
the hole, if you start to get stuck, every so many turns go backwards. That just cleans the debris out of there. Come back again. And you do this until you bottom out. I think we're just about there. That feels like it's getting to the bottom now. And you want to, yeah, that's it. And the other thing you can do too, if you really want to know for sure, is you can do the same thing you do with the drill bit. Just throw a piece of tape, measure 5/8 down, which is what this is, 0.6250, and put some tape around your tap, and that way you can you'll know when you're just about ready to bottom out. So with the tapping done, you want to repeat the process using your can of air or a compressor. And now you're ready to install the overlay. Now before you start assembling anything, go back to your print and take a look at the middle diagram. And on that diagram, it's going to give you the assembly order of washers and spacers and things like that. This particular overlay only requires one spacer and one bolt, so it's pretty simple, but others have 3, 4 different items that you have to make sure you put in the correct order. I've also put the template back up, and we're just going to screw right through that template, and then we come down here and we're going to make sure that the hole in the overlay lines up with the hole in the template. Now that the overlay is installed, we'll come down here to the bottom bolt hole, and you can see that we're very close. It's lined up with the template underneath. Now we're going to use a centering punch to mark that hole and drill and tap that one as well. So I've got a 15/64 center punch here, which fits very nicely in the clearance hole for this overlay. And you're just going to hold it as straight as you can. A couple small taps, and that should be enough to at least mark the hole. So as you can see, we're nearly spot on, which is just what we're looking for. Now we're just going to take our normal punch, a couple more taps, and the more of an indentation you can make, the less likely your drill bit's going to walk on you. So these are aluminum calipers, so that helps. If they're steel, it's a little more difficult, but don't be afraid to try to get a good mark on that. Now you can drill out the bottom hole. So I'm tapping the bottom hole. You want to remember, never go back and forth. You never want to force the issue with the tap. So a few turns forward, a couple turns back. It never hurts to pull the tap out, and it's particularly true with if you have aluminum. It can get gummed up because aluminum's so soft. And just every once in a while, blow the hole out and go back in and start tapping again. We can screw the last bolt in. Then you want to just look in behind, make sure there's plenty of clearances. There are. Spin your disc, make sure everything looks good there. So I've taken the screw out of the top of the overlay and removed the template. Now I've got some blue Loctite thread locker. This just allows you to remove the screw if you ever want to take these off. And you just want to put a very small dab on the back side. Very small. You don't need a lot at all. And then just screw it back in. Then you also want to pop the bottom one out, and you're going to just repeat the process. Right? That's the amount you're going to need. Very little, like I said. Then you want to snug them up. And then, a quarter turn past the snug point, and that should be good. So once you get your wheel back on, and if you want to know what these are going to look like out on the road or on the highway, you can give your wheel a couple good spins. That'll give you a good idea of what they're going to look like to everybody else as you go by them. So that's about it from here. Just repeat this process on all 4 corners. On the rears or on some of these, you're going to have 2 templates instead of one. One for a top, one for a bottom. It won't be one piece, but the process is the same. just remember to always do your top one first, and then you want to go down and leave your template in place and look at the bottom one. It should line up very, very close. Make adjustments if necessary. And when you're tapping, don't rush it. You know, few turns in, few turns out. Always to make sure you use the brake cleaner and make sure you blow all the chips away. That's really important. Any questions? Feel free to give us a shout on our website. And good luck with your install.